Good morning. It's Mother's Day, so I decided to give myself the gift of allowing myself to go public and speak about my favorite topic, which is the most compassionate story. This morning, I wrote a short post on Facebook sharing the truth of why I no longer participate in the Jewish community in Atlanta. It's been 4 years now. There's grief in that. The truth is that 4 years ago, I was speaking the most compassionate story, and no one could hear me. But I was speaking part of the most compassionate story. I was speaking the compassion part. The compassion part. And I hadn't yet worked out the full circle of accountability and responsibility for patterns over space and time. And I'm not saying that where I was 4 years ago was integrated, because it wasn't. But it was earnest and sincere and real. And my expression 4 years ago did not deserve what it received. In fact, back then, and I'll say it again today, everyone deserves to be treated with love and respect. Everyone does. And I did too. The expression of me 4 years ago deserved to be treated with love and respect. So, 4 years ago, I was already speaking the compassionate part of the most compassionate story. No one could hear me. And it took 4 years for me to actually get to a place where I could write the academic style referenced, integrated across academic fields paper. Writing a paper like that is a masculine intellectual task. It requires focus and a lot of energy in the mind. And part of the natural awakening process, you are awakening to talk about it simply, a different kind of love, a love for all that is, the transpersonal love. And this is a natural part of adult human maturation. Not everybody gets to experience that experience of the transpersonal or the transcendent love, but it is natural, and it has been written about by respectable people in our field of psychology, including Abraham Maslow's late work, Daniel Kahneman's Experiencing Self is a reference to this, transpersonal presence. Of course, Jung is talking about that. And then, of course, we have all the mystical traditions. So the awakening itself is to a more holistic and feminine experience. And as would be expected when a person discovers a whole new aspect of what it means to be a human being, that this too is possible, that I can also feel in love, connected, absorbed in. These are all in moments passing with all that is, with all that is. And what you'll find if your beloveds have awakening experiences, and most people are not going to have, I think, as abrupt experiences as mine. It's usually more gradual. But that's basically what's happening is when people have a psychedelic experience, for example, and they experience the drop of the sense of self or ego dissolution and are feeling connected to all that is, they experience it as a feeling of love. Well, yeah, it's another kind of love. It's the transpersonal love, love for humanity and love for all that it is. It's real. It's real. And there are people who are walk around and are anchored in that, and I am one of them. And I was that person. I was anchored in the transpersonal 4 years ago, and not integrated. I think integration is a continuous process. So there's no claim here that I'm done, but I know that I am more integrated than I was 4 years ago because I'm now able to both be in my highly feminine, surrendered state and also write and think academically. In other words, I am bringing back in that masculine, structured, focused energy that was more difficult to access 4 years ago. It was more difficult to access. I mean, I was, in fact, working and earning the year before. It's just so unfair. Really unfair. I was working and earning the year before, and which required me to step into my be in both in my feminine and my masculine. And I did do it. It just took a lot of energy. And I didn't do it as well as I had been able to previously and am returning to now. But I was speaking all of that out loud too. I was saying it. I'm in my feminine. I'm having a feminine awakening. I'm not able to really be this. It wasn't like I was experiencing this and keeping it to myself. But, it wasn't understood. Okay, but I really want to talk about the most compassionate story. And the most compassionate story is basically, I'm going to switch, and maybe I'll cut this video. I want to talk to other adult human development specialists, experts. I want to talk to other people who are executive coaches, vertical development, consciousness coaches, us who are helping human beings grow and mature vertically and horizontally. Vertically in terms of their connection to all that is and their relationship with all that is, source, divine, themselves. We use lots of different languages, so I'm trying to be inclusive here and be fuzzy with my language and be inclusive and throw a wide net. So those of us who work with a vertical development and also horizontal development, which is the skill-based, the competency-based, the relational 3D, being able to be in this world and be effective, all of it. So for those of us in adult maturation who deal with that full spectrum, vertical and horizontal, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about the most compassionate story, because I'm going to lift up the hood and I'm going to talk to you about what it does in relationship with our models that we use. Okay. What it does is it combines two major maturation milestones for adults. Most of us listening will definitely be really well versed in the first milestone for maturation of adults, which is the lesson of responsibility. So most of us who are in this space are very familiar that we are taking the predominant mental model of the Cartman drama triangle, where we tend to see relationships and people serving in roles of victim, villain, or hero. And that is the predominant mental model, and it is the dominant mental model of belonging, of the consciousness of belonging. And it is the largest percent of adult human population is here in that drama triangle. And what we do is grow people from there into the creative orientation, which moves from villain to challenger, victim to creator, and hero to coach. Did I say all that right? Yeah. So I think so. So the way that we make that transition, it's through the lesson of responsibility and understanding that if we choose to believe that we have agency and control and affect the world, then we can choose to be responsible and take responsibility. The shorthand phrase to describe the creative orientation is, if it's to be, it's up to me. Yeah, so most of us kind of know that. We know that that's what leadership development is doing. That's what life coaching is generally doing. It's definitely what most entrepreneur coaching is doing. It is moving people from the victim triangle to the creative orientation through the lesson of responsibility. And the most compassionate story keeps that. It also integrates the next stage of adult human maturation. So the next stage of adult human maturation is the co-creative orientation. So what, again, I'm hoping I'm talking to people who are in the field. You may know conscious leadership groups work, and they have a very simple 4-tier model. It goes drama triangle or blame model to creative orientation to co-creative to unity. It's 4. But, there's lots of other maturation schemas. Yeah. I mean, there's Robert Kagan's, which I talk about a lot. I like a lot. There's Ken Wilber's. And there are others. All of them. So, and like what's right, again, we're slicing what is actually patterns of and continuous. Yeah. We're making categorical what's really patterns and continuous growth in adult humans and really humanity as a collective. We're growing together. So I don't want to argue like who has the right model. What I will say, and I want to stake that claim, and I'd love to have an argument or a conversation about it if you don't agree, all the maturation models go from belonging, victim triangle or blame triangle, separate self, into maturing into responsibility. Yeah, and understanding that we are creators and that we have impact and that we can influence and create. And then move into and achieve and be self-authoring. That's the self-authoring. Self-authoring is the second creative orientation. And then all models recognize there's something beyond there. Yeah? Okay. Argue with me if you don't believe me or if you don't think that's true, especially those who are in the field. So what do all models say? Ken Wilber, Robert Kagan, Cook-Greuter? I forget. There's many models. They go from understanding the self-authoring and the creative and the hyper responsibility. A new lesson comes in life. And it's the lesson of surrender. And it brings us into the co-creative orientation. So what the Most Compassionate Story does is it integrates these two lessons of adult maturation into one system, one theory for systems. So it integrates the creative orientation and the co-creative orientation into one system, one systemic solution. And it is designed to function across consciousnesses, across stages of adult development, from the belonging stage to the self-authoring mind to the self-transforming mind. From the blame model to the creative model to the co-creative model. I've been talking about this stuff for such a long time. So, the what I was talking about 4 years ago was the innocence responsibility paradox. And what I've just laid out for you there, where we get to hold both as meaningful and true and useful, the lesson of responsibility and the lesson of surrender. Both holding both of those true bring us into the responsibility innocence paradox. Oh my God, I've been talking about that for a really long time. I mean, like the whole time I was in transformational leadership, I was communicating with my teams about responsibility innocence paradox. It couldn't be heard. And I couldn't really understand why people couldn't hear me. That's what I want to talk about today, is like, why do I think that people cannot hear me when I talk about the responsibility innocence paradox? Why do they not want to see others as innocent, nor themselves? They don't want to see themselves as innocent either. It's because we have been conditioned to into shaming ourselves for being perfectly normal human beings. And we have been conditioned to believe that the way that we can best change ourselves is through shaming and criticizing ourselves and judging ourselves, because that's what our parents did, and that's what the society does, and that's what the culture does. So until somebody starts to recognize that that doesn't actually work over the long run, which it doesn't, but you know, people need to like try things. They need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on coaching programs, which are teaching them to judge themselves and manage their mind and put their mind over their matter, their mind over their body. Eventually, they're going to figure out that that doesn't work for the long term. It doesn't work for the long term. But until they do, they're very, very, very resistant to the idea that not only are other people innocent, but they themselves are innocent. And they themselves can direct their behavior and change their behavior in other ways besides shaming and blaming. That they themselves can change their behavior through compassionate witness and through compassionate inquiry, and through allowing themselves to unmask and be themselves. They don't believe that. So what does it really take to like hear, read, understand, grok, desire the most compassionate story? A person would need to be at least beginning to understand the co-creative orientation and the lesson of surrender. And for most of people, that requires that they've actually completed the initiation, all the initiations that come with the creative orientation. And one of the big initiations that comes with the creative orientation is achievement, is to know that you can be impactful, you can affect the world, you are a creator. And, you know, people have a need to show themselves that, especially men. And it's like, if a man hasn't yet gone through that achievement initiation, I don't know if he can get to surrender. It's like he has to tick that box, which is fine. I mean, I guess I did too. I mean, I had to tick that box too. I had to achieve. I had to show myself that I could get a PhD. I had to show myself that I could start and run a business. And I needed to show myself that I could write the most compassionate story. I guess that was another kind of achievement. These desires don't necessarily go away. It's just I don't stake all of my, or any of my esteem on it. Yeah. It's for me. I'm not looking for external validation. I'm looking at doing it for me. I'm following my arrows. I'm following my creative energy. And what was surprising for me with the most compassionate story is that after I wrote it and then I got it accepted to a peer review forum where I can start to have conversation with people, human beings, which is necessary. It absolutely ticked a box. It was like, oh, I needed to do that and I've done it. And then it opened up, new desires. So it's not like achievement goes away, but it's not at the expense of my whole self anymore. It's not at the expense of my feminine self anymore. My body, my heart, my spirit, my relationships. So, what would it take to hear the most compassionate story and believe in there might be some wisdom in the innocence responsibility paradox? It would require someone who is at least beginning to see that you're a whole human being, started to accept your shadow, started to accept the parts of yourself that you have shamed to be unworthy, undesirable, shameful. And until you've done that, you're never going to be able to accept that others are innocent and doing the best they can, because you don't see yourself that way. But I am just really, at this point, I'm really looking for one person. A vocational partner who is also a systems architect, who also understands that the new systems need to incorporate the whole human being for the sake of the children. And that the new systems must account for, honor, protect life force energy. The full human being, especially now that we can outsource the intellect, or a lot of the intellect, some of the intellect, to the machines, which means we get more of the heart and the body and the spirit. That's what I see. So, thank you for listening. Have a great day, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and all the women who have mother energy, even if you're not a mother to a human. You are a mother to the world. Thank you.